any concern that that might incite a panic among Japanese citizens who live between 20 and 50 miles?
We consulted with the Japanese government. They were fully aware that we would be making this recommendation and sending out this advisory. Our concern, obviously, is with, first and foremost, with the safety and security of American citizens, and we issued the advisory accordingly.
Is the discrepancy due to perhaps logistic challenges of evacuating millions or perhaps hundreds of thousands of Japanese and just a handful of relative handful of Americans?
Again, you should ask the Japanese government those questions. The issue here is our decision based on our analysis of the data we have.
And final question, is it entirely appropriate for the President to be addressing a crisis of this gravity as he's standing before a whiteboard talking about the basketball tournament?
There are crises all the time, and for every president. And again, this one is happening halfway around the world, and it is severe and it is important, and it is the focus of a great deal of the President's attention, as are the events in the Middle East, as are the agenda items that he is pursuing to grow the economy and increase jobs in America, and make sure we out-innovate, out-build, and out-educate the competition in the 21st century. You know, it's a hard job that requires a lot. It is also important. One of the things I would note that the President did in that very brief interview on ESPN and ESPN2 was ask Americans, as they were filling out their own brackets, to take the time to go to usaid.gov and make donations to a variety of charitable organizations that are organizing donations to help the Japanese in this very serious situation that they find themselves in. So, yes, I do think it was appropriate. Yes, Jerry.
Two questions. What should the Japanese citizens within the 30 or between the 20 and 50 miles, what should they think of the U.S. recommendation?
I think I just answered that question. That's obviously for the Japanese government. They have the lead. This is a crisis in their country. Our advisory that we're putting out today is based on our independent analysis of the data and our concern for American citizens. It is the advice that we would give to Americans living within a 50-mile radius of a nuclear power plant that was experiencing a similar series of problems that this power plant is experiencing, and that is why we issued the advisory.
Today, Elizabeth Warren is up on the Hill, and some Republican lawmakers are, I guess, grumbling at the amount of power that she has at the Consumer Protection Bureau and wondering where is a permanent director? Where is the President's search for a permanent director?
Well, I'm not going to give you an uptate on personnel.
Is he actively considering it, or is he still looking for a director? Or?
Well, yes, he is. Obviously, I think we've discussed that, and so he fully intends to find a permanent director. Elizabeth Warren is. I'm not sure what we said about that, but it is. In the relatively near future, but I don't have an announcement on when that will be. On the issue you raised in the beginning, I mean, the President signed into law a Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, a law that puts rules of the road in place to help prevent another financial crisis, a crisis, by the way, that costs millions of American jobs, and this act includes the strongest consumer protections in American history. He feels that this is vitally important, that we have an independent watchdog. And you should know that Elizabeth Warren has met with all stakeholders, from consumer advocates to CEOs of large financial institutions to members of Congress, and has had an open comment process on the Bureau's website, so every American can contribute his or her ideas to this process. But he is committed to this because he thinks consumers deserve protection in the wake of what was an historic financial crisis that led to the greatest recession this country has seen since the Great Depression and cost millions of Americans their jobs.
And Republicans are saying that the Bureau needs more oversight, particularly congressional oversight. Does the White House agree with that?
The law contains within it a great deal of oversight. The whole point of the creation of the Bureau was to consolidate authorities scattered across government to create real accountability. And if you look closely, I think you'll see that there are actually there will be more oversight and accountability than of the CFPB than there is of any other federal banking regulator. So yes, we are confident that there is substantial and sufficient oversight.
Thank you.
Let me keep moving on. Helene.
Thanks, Jay. Secretary Clinton spoke today, and you did as well, about a range of actions at the UN, including a no-fly zone on Libya. But a no-fly zone in Bosnia was ineffective in stopping the mass murder of Srebrenica, mass rape, or ethnic cleansing. A no-drive zone is not going to be effective because the tanks in Libya are already so widely dispersed. It would have had to have been done a month ago, and arming the rebels with money would take another few months before, and they've got days at this point. So when you guys talk about a range of options, what exactly are you talking about that could conceivably or realistically stop Gaddafi at this point?
Well, I don't want to get ahead of the outcome of the consultations at the Security Council that are occurring today, and that will help shape the package that Secretary Clinton referred to. But it is precisely because there needs to be a range of options and a range of actions that the international community can take, that these consultations are dealing with more than just the no-fly zone. It is one of the options on the table, as I've said repeatedly and others have, but there are other options that need to be considered so that we can be sure that the actions we are taking with our international partners will do the most possible to put pressure on Gaddafi and to ultimately get him to leave power. Yeah.
Is it the belief of the White House that a no-fly zone could still make a military difference on the ground at this point?
I'll leave the military analysis to the experts. As I've said, no-fly zone option remains actively considered. It is certainly being considered as part of a package of actions that might be taken in a resolution that emerges from the Security Council. We believe that as part of any actions taken, that strong Arab League support and participation is vital, as Secretary of State and others have made clear. But I'm not going to assess the effectiveness of each individual option that is being considered. I have said from here before, as others have said, that it is important that the options we take, we understand what their effectiveness can be and what their limitations will be.
Why do we need more support than the Arab League? The Arab League has already invited us to do this.
Right, and that was over the weekend, right?
Well,
and today's Wednesday, and I'm expecting some sort of action on this no later than tomorrow.
It's a fast-moving war. How can we be accused of being imperialist if the region is inviting us in to help out?
Well said, and I will add that the expectation that the Secretary of State expressed moments ago in Cairo that we might have action on this no later than tomorrow again demonstrates the remarkable sense of urgency that this administration has been guided by, and our international partners have been guided by.
One more final thing. You frequently talk about what we've done and the rapidity of the things that we have done. How have any of those actions that we've taken affected military matters in a positive way for the rebels on the ground?
Well, you're asking me to prove a negative, Keith, right? I mean, the fact that the actions we've taken
do we feel that they have done anything?
There's an arms embargo, there's this asset freeze, there are efforts undertaken to prevent mercenaries from traveling into Libya. There are a host of actions, including humanitarian assistance, that have had an impact on the event there. I understand that the events there. I understand that it is still, we are still not in a place where we are happy with what's happening. It is, the violence is abhorrent, it is unacceptable, and the international community has spoken very clearly about that. But the actions that have been taken have been significant. They have been highly coordinated, and they are not the last actions that we or our international partners will take.
And they've actually helped the rebels, those actions?
You should ask them. Ann.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. Do you know whether during the NRC chairman meeting that it was raised at all that at some point the American embassy may ask Americans to, or suggest Americans leave Japan or reduce the embassy staff size in Tokyo?
I don't know that anything like that was discussed. Again, this is a fluid situation. As information comes, I would point you to the State Department on any advisories it might have. The advisory that I spoke about at the top of this briefing is The ink is still not dry on it. So that is our current advice to American citizens in Japan.
I ask it because some of our colleagues are in the airports there in Tokyo, and it's impossible to get out. I mean, the flights are not, there are fewer flights coming in to take people out. The places looks like a campground, they say, with the people camped out trying to get flights out of the country. And if you were to ask Americans or recommend that Americans might consider leaving, it would take more than just a moment's notice to get them out.
I don't want to quibble with that, but I'm not going to speculate about what may or may not happen if we were to take some other action that we haven't taken. April.
Jay, could you tell us how similar are the nuclear plants in Japan versus the nuclear plants here in America?
I do not know enough to responsibly reply to that. I urge you to discuss, to raise that question with the NRC and the Department of Energy. And there are a lot of independent experts out there, too, who could probably answer that question better than I can.
Isn't the president getting that kind of information?
Yes.
Okay, so...
But the experts, one of whom I had here the other day, are much better suited to answer that. I wouldn't want to give you bad information from here.
And also, with contradiction in information from the Japanese government and the United States government, is it time for common sense just to set in to say we need to leave this area and not worry about what the governments are saying? It's about self-preservation at this time.
Again, I will point you to the advisory that the State Department has just issued to American citizens in Japan. That is the advice of the United States government to American citizens. I'm not going to go beyond that. I will simply point you to it.
But don't you agree self-preservation goes beyond
Again,
what
I
a
will point you
government,
to-
two governments are fighting over?
I'm not going to go beyond what the, first of all, I don't know what you just said about fighting over. We're not fighting over anything.
Not fighting, but there are two
The-
contradictory reports about how people,
There
how
is
far people should
the
be.
advice that we are giving to American citizens based on data that we have analyzed independently. Beyond the advisory given by the State Department, I will not go. Margaret.
Thank you. I got two questions. I know this seems passe, but the CR, you know, I'm wondering whether President Obama is going to personally engage on this right now, or whether the 3 weeks buy him a little bit of time personally to take a break until he's back from Brazil. Vice President Biden, I know, was talking with Sperling today, so I'm wondering if you can kind of be as specific as possible about what will happen over the next 3 weeks and with whom. And I'll quickly toss out my second question. The First Amendment advocates who will present the president with this award they're not entirely happy with everything he's done. I think one of their big concerns is his continuation of the state secret invocation. Will there be a time when he sits down and talks with them, not on award day, about some of their concerns?
Again, Margaret, I addressed our position on the overall actions that the president has taken towards openness and transparency. On the on your first question on the CR, I mean, we obviously support the passage of the 3-week CR precisely because we need the time to negotiate a final CR for fiscal year 2011, and I think what will happen during this period is what has already happened, which are serious high-level consultations and discussions and negotiations about what that package would look like and how it must contain within it serious spending cuts, which everybody agrees are necessary, but which also maintains the investments in those areas that are so vital to our future economic growth, which the president has specified: education, infrastructure, and innovation.
I think this is probably the last CR. Some Republicans
We have made
suggesting
clear, Margaret, that we do not think it is healthy for the American economy, and therefore it is not good for the American people to treat this situation like a toll booth, where every 2 or 3 weeks you pay your money and you get to pass through the toll. That's not the way we should be running a government. It's not the way the American citizens expect us to. And we believe that there is common ground here, and we're confident that we can work together on a funding for the fiscal year in a package that we can all live with, where everybody gives, everybody moves off their starting position, and then we can get that done and move on to address the other issues that are very important that are on. And I will point to you that among those is fiscal year 2012, where the President of the United States remains the only player to have put forward a detailed budget that cuts spending and reduces the deficit.
Jay, can I follow on that?
Sam.
I just want to, yeah, which one?
Guy in the blue shirt.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Big Gary.
No, I just wanted to follow, on the budget negotiations, we're seeing revolts within the House Republican Party. Does the White House view Speaker Boehner as somebody who can deliver on whatever he promises at the negotiating table?
Well, we believe that Speaker Boehner is Speaker of the House, and he's the leader of the Republican Party in the House, and we are negotiating with him. We are negotiating with Senator McConnell, with Senator Reid, and Leader Pelosi, as well as others, appropriators on the CR and others that are involved in this process. And I think what I said is, applies to everyone in this debate, everybody involved in these negotiations, and in some ways that includes every member of Congress, to get a resolution for the American people, to get the work done that they want done. Everybody needs to move off their starting position. Everybody needs to accept to give a little in order to achieve the kind of spending reductions that we all believe are necessary, and the kind of investments that we all believe are vital to the economic growth that this country needs to compete and win the future in the 21st century. So the fact that at the end of this process, no one will get 100% of what they want, I will stipulate that right here, and that is true of the President, and it will be true of probably every member of Congress. But that's what negotiating and finding common ground is all about. Sam, number two.
Two-part question. First on the CR.
I like that.
I'm number one. For my mom.
Yeah.
On the CR, in this 3-week stopgap measure, there is, as I understand it, $99 million cut in NOAA funding, which the National Weather Service has warned would affect tsunami detection capabilities. Is the White House comfortable signing a bill at this juncture that potentially affect how we detect tsunami warnings? And I have a follow-up after that.
You have a follow-up?
Yeah.
Well, you might not after this, but Sam, I think we have generally stipulated that the spending cuts in the measure are ones that we can live with. On the specifics that you're asking about, maybe I can take that question.
I'll wait for you to get back. The second one has to do with the hearings that General Petraeus has had on Afghanistan. He's talked a lot about upward trajectory there, but that the gains we made are fragile and reversible, is the quote he gave. Yesterday we saw another prominent Republican official, Haley Barbour, come out with skepticism of Afghanistan. We see public polls showing an increased skepticism in Afghanistan. Is the administration at all worried that the gains that they're making, as fragile and reversible as they are, won't outlast the public's willingness to support this war?
Sam, as you know, the President went through a very deliberative process to arrive at the policy decision he made that we are executing now in Afghanistan, and about which General Petraeus has been testifying on the Hill this week. He believes it is important to our national security interests to execute on that policy. He also believes that a major element of this policy is the beginning of the withdrawal of U.S. forces in July of 2011, and as I think General Petraeus also discussed in his testimony, which will lead to a process that by the end of 2014 will mean that the United States forces will turn security lead over to Afghan security forces. We understand that this is a long war, and the policy the President devised with his advisors and commanders is aimed at achieving the success that we need and drawing down our forces once those successes have been achieved, and as we transition authority to Afghan security forces.
But you're not worried about the waning popularity in this country for continuing deployment even to 2014?
Well, again, I think we understand the environment. We understand how long this war has gone on. We understand, as the President said, that this war was neglected for a number of years in the middle of the last decade, and the President, this was all part of the President's review that led him to the policy decision he made.
Jay?
Let me go all the way back to Cheryl.
Thanks. I'm wondering if the President is yet interviewing for Commerce Secretary, and what do you have to say to Senator McConnell, who's vowed to hold that nomination until the Colombia and Panama Free Trade Agreements come up?
Cheryl, I'm just going to guess that, and I know I'm relatively new to this job, that my predecessor, not just my immediate predecessor, but none of my predecessors ever discussed interviews the president might have been doing about personnel, so I don't have anything for you on that. What I will tell you is that we strongly believe that the American people do not expect the kind of political games that holding up important appointments represents. When this president's commitment to trade deals, fair trade deals, has been demonstrated by his approach with the deal with South Korea, where because he did not feel it was strong enough for American workers and American businesses, he left South Korea without a deal, went back to the negotiating table and produced a deal that now has the support of labor and business and is good for the American economy. That is the approach he's taking with Panama and Colombia, and as Ambassador Kirk has said publicly, we are focused very aggressively on finishing those deals, but we do not believe it is good for the economy. We do not believe the American people expect that kind of those kind of political games around something so important as the approval of a trade deal that has wide support and will lead to job creation in the United States.
Thank you.
Let me take one more. Yes.
Jay, two. One on Japan and one on the CR, please. On Japan, the European Union and several East Asian countries have said that there's going to be extra scrutiny for food imports from Japan. Is the United States prepared to do anything on food imports or other imports to check for radiation or other levels?
Well, you should know that the agencies that check food imports do that every day, and of course are aware of what has happened in Japan and will be checking food accordingly. So, you know, the agency that ensures the safety of food imports will continue its work. It's similar to what I said about the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Prior to the events in Japan, the safety and security of American reactors was the primary mission of the NRC. It is that today, and it will be that next week and into the future. Yes.
And on the CR, Jay, the Democratic leaders, including the majority leader yesterday in the Senate, Harry Reid, said that the Tea Party is basically looking to the Tea Party as forming a wedge here on the CR negotiations. Is the president meeting separately with any Tea Party leaders in the House caucus or the Senate caucus on continuing resolution, hoping to get one through the end of fiscal year?
I will just say the president has had conversations and meetings that we've talked about in terms of internal party politics in the Republican Party. I'm not going to analyze that from here. Thanks very much.
Well, it's going to be my question too. You're obviously stating anybody who only listens to the Japanese government has greater risk of life and health. Period. Why is it